What's going on, guys? Desi here. I want to do a quick video on the AM session review, and let's get straight into this video. So right before we actually opened up, we could see that we had some London lows on ES down here, and then at the same area we had London lows on NQ as well. I'm not gonna go over NQ because I took the chart on ES, but we had lows here on NQ as well. We were bullish. Why? Right? You got to put your pieces together in the higher time frame. Well, we swept the weekly sell side. We're getting a reaction off that weekly and monthly fair value gap, and we are had a pretty significant move down yesterday after close. So what I noticed was we needed a break of structure right after this London sweep. So I actually used a 5-minute chart here, and you guys can quickly see it. Well, we had our displacement candle right here. We violated this fair value gap, excuse me, and that flipped it into this bullish inverse gap, and then also this gap right here. So I initially took this trade off of here. I set the limits. I got my fill, and I think we got about 7 to 8 points on this trade, which is not bad, but that wasn't my final target that I was aiming for. I was actually aiming for these highs right here, and then these previous highs up here at 30. So I let this play a little bit, and as you can see, we violated this fair value gap. And now I'm like, all right, I got my, most of my trims anyways. I'm +8, on this trade, and now we're in the rest of my position, break even, stop loss. And now I'm like, all right, we took out the London low. We still haven't cleared buy side. We did flip this inverse 5-minute fair value gap. Now let's see what's going on the 1-minute chart. So what I noticed was that we had a balanced price range here, right? And ES was kind of, just holding this gap right here, which is an inverse fair value gap with the regular fair value gap as well, which is a balanced price range. So I was like, we haven't swept any liquidity yet. Let's see the reaction off of this move right here. Notice we had structure here, and we broke it to the downside with this candle right at 7:30. What is this going to become? A bearish fair value gap. So now let's go back and put the pieces together. We swept London sell side. We haven't taken out buy side. We inversed the gap on the 5-minute, right? So now you're kind of like, are we bullish or bearish on the day on the rest of the AM session? And this is where I always like to say, wait for a fair value gap to get violated, right? If we would have came lower to this fair value gap, we would have used this as an inverse to take it lower, right? Would have displaced under this low. But I was already bullish biased, right? Because I gave you guys the reasons earlier in this video. And then what I told everyone was like, if this video flips, or this candle right here flips as an inverse gap, smack the 50% of it, because this is going to confirm us back to the upside. And what did we get? Right? I told everyone, I was like, I literally typed in the chat, I was like, I was like capital, I was like, yo, I'm not bearish here. I don't think this is going to flip. Like, I don't think we're bearish for the rest of the day. I literally said my spider tinglings are telling me that this 5-minute fair value gap, that's the inverse, is going to get violated. Lo and behold, this gap did get violated. And now I was very confident. I was like, okay, now we could take the CE of this fair value gap right here. Boom, we get our entries. I'll like stop below the inverse fair value gap, and let's target some highs up here. And what did we do? A little chop. We finally got that sell side sweep. And let me show you NQ in the morning as well as with the ES. Same kind of situation with NQ, right? We came down here. We had this bearish fair value gap, flipped it as an inverse, right? As soon as that inverse got flipped, we tapped right back into it, and we went for that buy side liquidity. So in this case, right, my bias was still bullish, and even though we flipped that 5-minute gap, I was like, you know what, either I'm not going to take a trade, or we're going to wait for this gap to get inversed on the 1-minute chart, and then we could go ahead and take out that area of buy side. And like I said, this all happens and gives yourself confidence from the higher time frame, the weekly sweep on ES and NQ, and the weekly FVG and monthly FVG on NQ as well. So that was my thought process behind this inverse fair value gap trade. Also aligned with this fair value gap right here that broke this kind of structure, small structure here. And that was pretty much the trade that I took. Like I said, I don't really take a trade that's against my bias. You guys can see if I'm saying something in the chat like, oh, I'm bearish today, I'm bullish today, you could very clearly tell I'm only taking calls or puts, right? Yes, obviously after my targets get hit, I'll look to play the other side, but my target wasn't hit yet, so there's no reason for me to actually flip bearish during this move, even though we flipped a lot of gaps, right? Like I said, the first move, I got my trims at break, the rest of my trims were at break even, but I did get my +8, +7 on that ES trade. And on the way down, it's not like I'm, slapping, longs down here just because. No, I need to see what kind of reaction we have, right? After every sweep, after every move like this, you need to see what kind of reaction we have afterwards to kind of confirm your bias. And this was according to plan, right? We came back up, flipped this gap as inverse. As you guys can see, this not only did this, flip it isn't inverse, but also it came right back up and, ran through the inverse gap. And that kind of helped me with my bias as well, going into the rest of the day for the upside. So that's kind of the, morning session kind of review. It was very choppy in the morning. That's where you got to stay very patient, wait for the move to happen. We got our London sweeps. And after that, it was pretty much good to go. And I would give you a little visualization of the London sweep on NQ as well. So NQ, London sweep. We had this, break of structure here on the 5 minute. Right, this break of structure on the 5 minute. Like I said, same thing with NQ. It flipped this gap to an inverse. But I was hesitant on shorting that inverse because my bias was still bullish. And we still had objectives such as this 530 open that we needed to tag. Same thing as ES. Flip this 1 minute gap as inverse, and then we just took the longs all the way up. And like I said, these are trades, when they go with your bias, they're going to be very quick, no drawdown on display, and just smooth sailing from there. And that's pretty much the review for AM session, that the trades that we took today, why I took it, what I was looking at, and yeah, that's it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. DM me on Discord. I'm free to help you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.